Hi, it's nice to meeting you. And my name is Joong Choi at Chungbuk National University College of Medicine, South Korea. And let me switch the focus of this camera to the PowerPoint presentation. And today, I'd like to give a short presentation with the COVID-19 vaccine. And the title is "When will it be available to us in Korea?" My talk will proceed as follows. First, outbreak and global pandemic timeline. And second, COVID-19 vaccine pipeline. And third, vaccine types and distribution status. And fourth, progress in Korea. And lastly, lesson and homework. This slide is about the timetable of the COVID-19. Let me start from the left side, which is the end of last year, 2019. Last year, December 8th, several people in Wuhan city was known to develop symptoms. The symptoms included coughing and headache and fever. And at the time, people in China, the doctor in China called it pneumonia-like cases. And last year, December 31st, Chinese government alerted WHO about these pneumonia-like cases. And first day of this year, January 1st, Chinese government shut down Wuhan wholesale seafood market, which is the original place that this outbreak started. And after a week, Chinese scientists identified this new COVID-19 virus, which is called SARS-2 coronavirus, rather similar to MERS and SARS virus that occurred earlier. And January 11th, there was a first casualty from this pneumonia-like cases in China. And soon, like January 13th and January 20th or 21st, this virus is spread to nearby city of China, like Thailand and South Korea and Japan, and soon after the United States. And January 23rd, after months after the outbreak started, the Chinese government shut down the whole Wuhan state, and they underwent the quarantine, and they stopped almost everything. And around this time, a lot of people, up to several thousand people, got infected, and they lost their lives in China alone. And at the end of January this year, this virus spread to further outer area, like Europe and South America, and this infection became a global pandemic from this time point on. This slide shows the latest numbers of this COVID-19 disease. As you can see on the left top, there are more than 80 million people diagnosed with COVID-19 so far, as of December 27th. And the death toll is more than 1.7 billion people, which is a lot, which is a huge number. And if you restrict the diagnosis and death toll in United States, there is daily more than 200,000 people is diagnosed with COVID-19, and more than 1,600 people lose their lives every day. It's too much pain. Right after this COVID-19 break, the companies, what I mean is the giant global size big company, they started to develop or find coronavirus therapeutics. And like Gilead Science have searched for therapeutics, medicines that could be used for treatment of COVID-19 patients, and have found several candidates such as remdesivir, as you may know, heard, and chloroquine, to name a few. However, it turned out that these medicines worked nicely in the preclinical stage or lab-based experimental environments, but did not show any meaningful protection from the SARS coronavirus in the human. It was just kind of a sad story at the beginning. And on the other hand, many countries, including U.S., U.K., China, and Russia, and Korea too, started to develop the vaccines and appear to succeed in having various forms of vaccines, and finished or in the middle of finishing the clinical stage 3 study. As many of you know, and shown on the right side here, Pfizer and BioNTech and Moderna and AstraZeneca from UK, these are the companies that got the FDA approval from US, and they finished the clinical 2 and 3 stage study with lots of participants, and on an open-based blind study, they found the efficacy of their vaccines efficiency up to 95%, 90 to 95%. However, AstraZeneca vaccine is reported to have a lower efficiency, such as 70% protection, which is a little bit of a concern. Anyway, these vaccines that has acquired the FDA approval is already delivered to United Kingdom and United States and also Canada, and people are getting vaccinated with this. So we as a whole at the near end of a tunnel and start to see a dim light, and it is expected roughly by next summer or as late as next fall, we will get over this worst pandemic crisis and may get back to a new normal life, and cross fingers. But on the other side, these first tier vaccines are available in several rich countries, including US, UK, Canada, and Japan. And these vaccines may be available later next year to other countries. In addition to US and UK, China and Russia also appears to succeed in developing good vaccines. And these vaccines are at the finishing stage of a clinical stage 3 study, or already approved for emergency use in 2 countries. And in addition, several South American or Middle East Arabic or Southeast Asia countries are planning to use either Chinese or Russian vaccines. what is shown on the left here is a Chinese vaccine developed by Sinopharm company. And on the right side is a Russian vaccine, so-called Sputnik 5 vaccine. Despite these progresses in other countries in vaccine development, Korea remains behind and in the middle of negotiating for several vaccines from AstraZeneca and Pfizer and also Moderna. Canada seems to be the first, the top countries which has acquired about 9 doses for individual Canadian people, and the United States acquired about 7 doses for individuals for Americans, and UK seems to acquire 6 doses, which is enough dose for 3 people, but 2 doses is equal to 1 person. So UK acquires 6 doses per person, which means it's more than necessary. So Canada, United States, and United Kingdom, Australia, and EU, and Japan all has acquired enough vaccine doses, actually more than necessary. This is a sad story for other underdeveloped countries which acquired no vaccines at all. And in Korea, the government initially plans to rely on COVAX program, which is an international vaccine development program, and for 10 million people, 10 million Korean people. But the COVAX vaccine is not ready yet. I don't know what stage they are at, either clinical stage 2 or clinical stage 3, I guess. But I don't hear any news about the COVAX vaccine. And today, I heard from the news media that the Korean government will supply the AstraZeneca vaccine by next February. This slide shows the vaccine and therapeutic developments efforts in Korea, and I'd like to point out 2 things. On the left side, Genexin is a vaccine manufacturer, but the problem is they didn't have a success in the past with any vaccine. That was the first mistake of the government in allocating the money to Genexin. Actually, GC Pharma in Korea, they are good at in developing all kinds of virus vaccines. But I don't know what happened to GC Pharma with the government, and why the government choose Genexin instead of GC Pharma. That's one thing I don't understand. Anyway, Genexin vaccine will be available next fall, which is not sure yet. The second thing in this slide is a monoclonal antibody developed by Celltrion, which is called the CTP59. This monoclonal antibody finished their clinical 2 stage study and is reported today. And this antibody seems to be very safe and has a good efficiency in getting rid of the virus from the human body. So they will go through the clinical 3 stage, but they also they submitted this vaccine study data to the government for emergency use. And anyway, it's good to hear we Korean will get the vaccine soon. But I thought about why it took long to be here in this situation, and why we happen to be rather late in acquiring the COVID vaccine, and come up with 7 factors that might be involved individually or in combination. Let me read from the top. The title is Factors that are related to late vaccine development or distribution. First, no experience in national disasters with infectious disease, especially this government. They start their work about 2.5 years ago. This new government, which is democratic government, didn't have any experience. The background is from social activists in the past, and they didn't understand exactly what the situation is going on with this coronavirus. There was a first kind of one factor that may have contributed to late vaccine development or distribution. The second factor is a lack of total crisis management. Either this current ruling party or the opposition party, no matter which party took over the regime, they are interested in getting the power rather than having a good crisis management system, either for diagnostic tools or therapeutic tools, including vaccine or therapeutics. And it's a sad. So the third factor is kind of sad. Based on the past experience, the government official, especially in the field of vaccine development or vaccine distribution, they used to get the penalty by the auditory, especially when they either have when they order the more than excess vaccines more than necessary, then the auditory officials give a penalty to these government officials. So they are very reluctant to be actively engaged with this vaccine development or distribution. So there has been no immunity guarantee until recently. And fourth factor is a delay. There has been a delay for having National Vaccine Development Center. And last year, the government initiated this vaccine development center near my university, which was too late. Actually, they finished constructing the building, and then this coronavirus vaccine developed. This disease developed. And the fifth factor is a lack of interest or competency of Korean pharmaceutical companies. They didn't have a previous record for making successful vaccines for any SARS or MERS or any other disease except the hepatitis C virus developed by Green Cross Pharma. And the sixth factor is passive attitude of finance ministry for infectious disease. They control all the government money, and they are well known for cutting the budget right after the crisis, including MERS and SARS. When there's the pandemic outbreaks, this finance ministry try to increase the financial support. But after the crisis is over, and then this budget disappears. And so people in the vaccine field cannot maintain their research capability or infrastructure. And the seventh last factor is partnership with the global pharmaceuticals. Either government or South Korean pharmaceutical companies didn't have much partnership with the global pharmaceuticals. I think this partnership or connection is important in getting the vaccine earlier and at a reasonable price. So we had gone through MERS infectious pandemic and SARS pandemic. Now this is the third time, as far as you remember, this coronavirus pandemic is the third time, and we are struggling to have a vaccine on the right time. So what I'm worrying is we are depending on the government, but the government official just come and go once every 5 years, depending on the election. And either ruling party or opposition party, they take turns in getting the power, and they are interested in getting the power. That's their primary goal, getting the power. And they don't think this crisis management system is very important. That's a subtle problem. So I hope we Korean, or including government officials or scholars or the experts, need to think about how we can be better prepared for the next pandemic. I think they will come once every once 5 years, and so we need to have a regular and emergency budgets. During the peacetime, there need to be a regular budget to keep the infrastructure of this vaccine and therapeutic the personnel and research things. And in case of pandemic outbreak, there should be additional emergency budgets right after the outbreaks, so that the people can start developing vaccine and therapeutics. And there should be a regular organization to prepare or to manage this kind of infectious crisis in Korea. I hope there should be supervision of this government project or government directions by regular committee or including experts. And most importantly, there need to be more communication between government in the vaccine or therapeutic field with the expert outside of government. I don't see quite active communication between two parties, and it needs to be improved. And this is the end of my talk, and thanks for your attention, and Happy New Year, and stay safe. Thank you.